Well, hi, Wendy. I am so happy to have you here on my podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to hear your stories.
Yeah,
Where
I
are
have
you
plenty of
right now?
stories. Let's see. Right now, I am in Oregon, in Medford, Oregon, which I've never been, which is pretty cool. So many little wineries around here and little towns and
Yes.
beautiful scenery and beautiful people. So, yes, Oregon today. Tomorrow, I will be going to Mount Shasta in California.
So, for those that don't know, Wendy is RVing, if you can't tell from her background. She's in her RV right now. And this is actually, yeah, it's a beautiful RV, by the way.
Thank you. Yes, I worked hard for this thing, my little house on wheels,
Yes.
It's funny, it's everything I have. Like everything I have is in this little box on wheels. And we can talk about this too, but it's like,
Yeah.
especially at midlife for my
Mhm.
audience, it's like you get to midlife and you have the big house and the
Yeah.
house in the burbs with all the stuff in it, and then the cars, and oh my God, a
Mhm.
garage full of stuff and an attic full of
Yes.
stuff. I got rid of everything.
I've
So,
been
and I
there.
tell you, I don't miss the stuff. I don't
Yes.
miss it.
I don't either.
I think you realize it's like you come into this world with nothing, you're going to leave with nothing. So it's like, why am I hauling all this stuff around?
I agree. And for me, it was more about um that whole like burden of that responsibility of all that stuff. It was just like
Yes.
I felt like
Oh,
overwhelmed by it.
yes. Well, and I
Yeah.
always say to him, like, let's say, even if everything is paid for, which is great and fabulous if you can do that, right? If
Yeah,
you have a
right.
house paid for,
Right.
and no matter how big that, but you still have to maintain it. You still
Correct.
have to take care of it and dust it and clean it,
Hmm.
or pay taxes on it, whatever. So
Yes. Yeah.
for me, like, I don't know. I got to the point I thought, you know what? Like, I'm just gonna really simplify my life so that I can have that time and the energy to explore and live life Wendy's way. So
Right. And it's giving you the freedom, and which kind of getting
yeah.
into this whole
Yeah.
story of your I'd like to hear about your first cross country RV trip, honestly. And like what propelled you to do it? And obviously you had to downsize before you did it, as we're talking, right?
Yep.
But share that
Yeah.
story with us.
Yeah. So when my youngest son, so I have three kids, they're 20, 25, and 31 now. So, and they live all over the place. But when my youngest son was a teenager, I had this wild idea. I was like, you know what? I want to rent an RV and drive Route 66. And we were living in Virginia at the time. I was still married at that time. And then, so I was like, I'm going to do it. So, I told him, I was like, you can invite one friend
Okay.
and we're taking a trip. And of course, teenagers are like, oh my gosh, we're going to take an RV trip. Like at first I was like, and I told him, I said, let me tell you something. I go, you will never forget this trip ever. I said, it's going to be the coolest. I was like, trust me on this. It's going to be
Hmm.
fun. So, rented an
Yeah.
RV, and I think we took a little over yeah, about 2 to 3 weeks, actually. I went from Virginia all the way to Arizona to the
Okay.
Grand Canyon, and yes, had a blast. And I can remember so many times just driving. I'd be out there by myself, like driving the RV. And it's a pretty good size RV. It's about maybe 28, 30 foot,
Mm-hmm.
and Class C. And I remember thinking, like, I want to do this. I was trying to envision myself living in an RV and like, could I actually do this? And so, yeah, that's kind of where it all started.
Mm.
My parents have been full-time RVers for 27 years.
Oh,
So
okay.
I guess it's in my
So
blood.
yes, it sounds like it.
Yeah. And they love it. They can't even imagine going back I mean, they're, almost 80 now, but they love it. So yeah, and then fast forward a little bit, I got a divorce, and
Mhm.
then I had went through, I guess, what you call a midlife crisis, a midlife meltdown. And then from that, I was like, here I was going back to that moment. I remember I was like laying on the bathroom floor, bawling my eyes out, had gotten through a divorce or going through the divorce. And then I sound like an old country song, but lost my dog. I lost everything. I would have lost the farm if I had that too, but I didn't have a farm. But lost my dog, lost my cat, lost my marriage. My brother passed away.
Oh.
And then for me, like I had never been through a depression before. I was unemployed. I was in a massive amount of debt, like just insane. And so here it was. I'm thinking, what am I going to do with my life? I was 45 years old. The nest was just about empty. Nolan had a couple years left. And then I was like, what am I going to do with my life? And here that vision came of driving an RV across the country. I was like, Wendy, even I was telling myself, I'm thinking, that's a little nutty right now. Like, you have no job. You're like, what are you doing? No. So I thought, well, it took the same amount of effort for me to stay on the floor, if you will, miserable and crying and feeling sorry for myself. Took that much effort, the same amount of effort for me to just get up and actually do something about it. So I was like, well, why not? What have I got to lose? Right.
That's right.
So sent my resume out all over the world, literally, because I thought, well, I am willing to move anywhere for an opportunity to change my life. So within 4 weeks, I had gotten a job offer of selling homes in Chicago, something I had never done before. I'd never even been to Chicago. I was like, why not?
Wow.
Why not? I'll just do it. So here I go. I got rid of everything in that house, packed up the U-Haul, and went to Chicago. And the whole time, and again, this was a job I didn't really want, didn't really like, but I thought, if I just keep my mind focused on what I really want, which is what I'm doing now, then I'll get there.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it took me, and within, so crazy to say this, but in 1 year, I went from making $0 to making $500,000. Got out of debt, obviously,
Yes. Good for you.
and bought this RV. I found this RV that I'm sitting in. I had my mind on it the whole time. I was like, I want the Thor Delano 24 FB. And so there was one left in the whole country in Nashville. So I flew from Chicago to Nashville on a Saturday. I drove it back to Chicago on Sunday, and I quit my corporate job on Monday.
Love it.
Bye, everyone.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Crazy. But you know what, though? I was just thinking before we even started this chat, that I was thinking about that. Like, sometimes we might have like the craziest of thoughts of things, like, well, that seems a little nutty. And sometimes I feel like we stop ourselves because we have to have so many good reasons to do something. I mean, the good reasons, whether that be for society's, norms, or our family, or anything, or culture, whatever it is. Like and I didn't really tell many people. I told the people that I knew would really understand Wendy and would really care, but I kept it to myself because I thought if I told too many people of what my idea was, they would probably talk me out of it, But I feel like some of the craziest wild ideas that we have are the best things to act on. That's where I feel it really awakens you and brings you alive. And for me, I feel more like Wendy than I ever have in 50 years. I mean, actually, I feel like more like a kid again, like how your authentic self should feel.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's the bottom line is,
Yeah.
and you hit the nail on the nose when you talked about keeping it from certain people, because there are people that are going to dash your dreams. There's people
Oh, gosh.
They're going to think you're crazy, but you have to go with what is in your gut, what is true to you. And it sounds like you truly did that. But I also like that you took that job and, you knew it was for a time, for a season to prepare. And I think that's where, I sometimes I get a little impatient, kind of like, well, I want to do this. I have this crazy idea to do that, like,
Yeah.
but that's kind of
Yeah,
where I'm at now.
yeah.
You have to
Yeah, it's like
prepare
you end
for
up
it.
having to make these sacrifices to
Yes.
get you to where you need to be. And I was thinking about that earlier too. It's
Yeah.
like when I look back on my life of, all right, having to give up some things in
Hmm.
order to get what you really want. And
Yeah.
the whole time I can remember, especially living in Chicago in the dead of the winter,
Oh, brutal.
and I'd be driving to work and I'm like thinking, what am I doing? And I was like, okay, Wendy, focus, focus, focus. Like, what is,
Yep.
I feel like when you know your why, you find your way. I feel like the path just is laid out for you. Like
Yes.
once you figure out your why, like, why do you want this? And
Yeah.
for me, it's interesting because I'm writing a book right now called Women Waking Up. And like my agent was, she wanted more of the story of Wendy after I took off in the RV. But
Hmm.
really the story is before I got, how I got the keys in my hand. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, so to, and the reason I wanted to do this, it was the freedom. And I
Yeah.
think freedom means something different for everyone,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
For So for me, it was, I would be able to have my own show. I could work remotely. To
Hmm.
me, that's what I wanted. And to be able to travel and meet people and explore and not to be stuck to any certain time schedule, blah,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, and I feel like for people out there listening, like you have to figure out what you want and why
Yes.
you want that. And sometimes that takes a little bit of digging,
Hmm.
journal if you have to, pray about it, think about
Yes.
it, meditate about it, go for a walk and think like, why do I want this? It, to me, it had nothing to do with the actual RV. It had to do with the experience that I would get from it.
Yes.
So it's really like digging deep beneath that of what you really, of why you want that.
Well, I think the why is very important
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
if you don't know your why, then you're just floundering. And
Yep.
if you also have to see like how important is that why?
Right.
Like by that's how you prioritize stuff. So if it's important enough, you're gonna make it happen like you did.
Yeah,
Right?
and yeah, and I'm so glad you said that. And because it's also making yourself a priority, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And giving yourself permission to follow that dream.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
making yourself number one. Yeah.
Yes. Was there anything new that you discovered about yourself on that first RV trip?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Well, first of all, like even though I rented an RV that one time, I didn't really know how to live in an RV. And I can remember when I first took out, when I bought it in Nashville and I was driving back, I had nothing with me. I was like, what was I thinking? I didn't even have a blanket. I
Oh.
had to stop at Walmart and buy a blanket just so I could spend the night for one night on my way back. But I didn't know how to do the hookups. I didn't know how to do any of it. I actually didn't, when I officially like took off on my journey, I had no idea where I was going to go. Even though I, for months leading up to it, I bought all these books at Barnes and Noble, like road trips. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go here and there. And then when I finally got to the point, I loaded up the RV and I was like, it's time for me to go. I had no idea where I was going to go. I knew I was going to go west, but that was it. I mean, west, that's pretty vague.
Pretty big.
But I didn't care though either. Like I was so happy and so at peace that I could care less where I was going. I was like, I'm just going to drive. But I feel like, yeah, it's like you just, once you get to where you want to go, like it's we all hear that cliche about the destination and the journey. It
There's,
truly is
yeah.
about the journey, even the journey to get you to your ultimate journey.
Yep.
And even if you have to take a job you don't love, even if you have to end relationships or start new ones or whatever it is, like it's so worth it. Once you finally get to that point, it's so worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned I was in the same boat when I bought my, it's funny you said Nashville because that's where I bought my RV trailer.
Oh, did you really? Oh my gosh. That's like
Uh,
RV Central.
I think so. I don't know. They were actually having like this huge expo, I guess, around the time that I bought mine. But anyways, same thing. I got this
Yeah.
RV trailer and I knew nothing. Like
Yeah.
same thing, hookups. Yeah, I was just clueless.
Yeah.
But what would you say outside of maybe learning, the learning
Yes.
curve of how to use an RV? Were there other challenges or difficulties about that trip that you weren't expecting?
So one of my main fear before I took off was, would I be lonely?
Mm.
And I'll tell you what, I was not.
Oh,
Actually, I loved it. But and there's a difference between being alone and
mhm.
lonely.
Correct. Yes.
And it is the greatest opportunity to get connected with yourself and with your soul and
Mhm.
with your thoughts and then you kind of, I feel like it makes you more resilient when
Mhm.
you're alone and you're like, I mean, I can remember one night I was in New Mexico and I'm sitting here where I'm at right now. And I have like my TV up here, and
Okay.
I rarely watch TV, and as you know, like RV parks don't have the greatest of
No.
television, right? Or cable. So, but I found like what those old 1970s shows were on, and I just sat here, I had a little glass of wine, and I was watching these shows, the black and white TV, and I like this. It was so nice. It was like, and then I felt so proud of myself. I thought what everything I had to do to get to sitting here with Wendy, hanging out with Wendy, watching old sitcoms and drinking wine in the middle of the desert in New Mexico. And I was like, I felt more connected to myself and to life.
Yeah.
And so I remember that moment going like, okay, Wendy, you're going to be fine. You're going to be just fine. Like I wasn't what I feared the most was just like nothing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting, right? Like what did they say? The acronym of fear is false evidence appearing real.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, it's
I love
like, and
that.
yeah. And so now I don't worry so much about some of these little fears that pop up. I'm like, is that really true?
Mm.
I mean, every day we'll have thoughts like fear of things, whatever it is, so no matter how small or big. But then you never really know. Like once you go through it, then it's like, well, it wasn't so bad, like, Yeah.
Well,
So I never got lonely.
well, and I think it sounds like too, I mean, when you come to a place where you actually enjoy your own company,
Yes, you're exactly right.
like
Yeah.
you're not gonna
Yeah.
be lonely. I mean, you're
Yep.
gonna find ways to enjoy that time. And like you said, soul coach.
Yeah.
I mean, I do a lot of, when I'm alone, I like
Yes.
that time. Journaling, just
Yeah.
asking those questions. And when you're around people, you really can't dig into like asking that question, is that fear really real?
Right.
But when you're
Hmm.
alone, you have that time to reflect on it. So I think it's
Yeah.
amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. You're so right. Like the reflection, I think that's so important to do. And I'd say that the greatest lesson I got out of the whole experience was getting out of my own way. I
mm,
realized that I've stood in my own way for the longest of times,
mm,
like not doing things in my life. And it was really like, I would like to think like I would, blame it on somebody else. Well, I can't do this because
mm,
I have to do this business, or I can't do this because of that or that or that or that. And it's like, what it came down to was me. Like, I had to stop making excuses for myself, and I
mm.
had to get out of my own way. And I guess great things happen in Santa Fe, New Mexico, but coincidentally, it was also in Santa Fe where I had this aha realization moment that I'd been standing in my own way. And I
Mm,
felt like, it sounds crazy, but that's totally okay. It was almost like my soul was telling me, You need to get out of my way. Like, I got stuff to do. You know what I mean? Like, this is my time here to shine. Like, whatever fear you have of starting your own podcast and driving across the country and writing a book, like enough, like I have a lot to share with the world, and you're
Mm,
standing in my way.
mm,
So I
love
remember
that.
thinking, yeah, and I journaled about it that day, and I thought, okay, no more. Like, just
Yes.
go for it.
Yes.
And,
Making that
and don't
decision.
and don't hold back. It's just, there's that quote from Julia Cameron, and she
Ah,
says, yeah, leap and
love
the
that
net will
book.
appear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, it's such a good book. But yeah, leap and the net will appear.
Yeah.
And you have, I had said to someone the other day, but like, if this was, you know, a bottle of courage, like, I can't give you a bottle of courage. Like, this is my bottle of courage, and it's full because I filled it up. And I filled it up because I took action over and over and over and over again.
Mm,
Like, that's how you're not just like, hi, I'm courageous. Like, no, you become courageous. You become courageous by actually doing those
doing.
things, by leaping.
Ah,
And, it's like, I said this to someone not too long ago about that quote, leap and the net will appear. And she's like, well, sometimes the net doesn't appear. And I said, but you're the net. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're leaping, and you keep showing up for yourself and just trusting that you'll figure it out.
yes. That's the bottom
Yeah.
line. Yes.
I mean, I know it's like with your show, it's about solo travel, but you know what? You're not solo. Might be like, okay, you're going off by yourself, but there's people, there's like, it's a whole
Oh,
world of
yeah.
like community and connection, and you connect more with others. I mean, I've met the most
Yes.
fascinating people.
Oh my
It
gosh.
is,
Do a whole
I mean,
show
just,
just on the fascinating people you
I know,
right?
I know,
I'm
oh
sure.
my gosh,
Yes.
yes. So you're never alone. You're
No,
never alone.
I thank you for, yes, that's true. And I try to
Yeah.
tell people that, I mean, even though you're going by yourself, I mean, you like you said, you're surrounded by people. Um,
Yeah.
well, how
Mm.
is your RV travels different this time around?
This
Because
time.
right? And I
Yes.
know, so
Yeah.
you we'll get to Madeira in a second, but you
Okay.
are back in the US right now in your
For
RV
now.
again for I don't know how long.
Yes. So, okay. So then, so yeah, was on a solo journey across the country. Now I have a boyfriend and a puppy.
I saw your puppy, so
I
cute.
know,
You
she
travel
little.
with your puppy. That
Oh
is
yeah,
that's
she's
so cool.
she's only like 4 pounds, so it's great
Okay.
when I do. Yeah, when I do travel abroad, she just goes underneath the airplane seat.
Okay.
But I do take her out, and I don't know. But so yeah, she's a good little traveling
Good.
companion. She's so resilient, because I mean, she started out traveling, so she knows nothing different. She's like, oh, I guess this is what we do. Like,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
just go all over the place. It's funny, in the RV, she knows, like, once I start putting stuff away, she's like, oh my God, we're going somewhere today. I'm like, yeah, yeah.
That's so
So it's
cute.
kind of interesting. It was, a little bit of adjustment, because I was
Mhm.
so used to doing things by myself. And now I'm loving it, because I'm like, all right, you have the outside stuff. I handle the inside.
Okay.
Um, so it was still an adjustment period in the beginning, but it's actually even more amazing this time around, because some of the things that I wanted to do, like, even though I didn't get lonely, it was like, whoa, if I had someone with me, it would be cool if we, like,
Yeah.
just certain
Just
things,
share things. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But and yeah, as far as Madeira, Portugal, I've always wanted to live abroad. I always wanted to live in Europe and travel. And I went to school in Paris, France, like
Oh,
years and years
I didn't
ago.
know
Yeah,
that.
I know.
Okay.
Lots of interesting facts about me.
Wow.
So I'm a French pastry chef.
Oh
So
gosh.
yes, I know. Yeah, I know. It is a
Amazing.
little challenging to make pastries in this RV,
Yeah, yeah.
but so yeah, I loved Europe. And so we started doing research, and since, just like, since I can work remotely, all I need is Wi-Fi, right, to do my
Yeah.
podcast,
Yeah.
and I can write anywhere. So I started looking at different countries, and Portugal, I mean, it's one of the safest countries in the world, one of the healthiest countries in the world. Um, English speaking, like 95% is English speaking. Not that, I mean, Portuguese is pretty hard to learn, but that was a factor, you know.
Okay. Okay.
I love Spain, but it wasn't, and Spanish, like if you're going to learn anything, Spanish would probably be the easiest. But Portugal was easier to kind of get into the EU. So for
Okay.
anybody, you can go for 90 days.
Right.
Right.
For US citizens, yes, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
90 days.
So
Yeah.
we ended up, we have a place over there. So we have everything set up to get citizenship, which that's the next step.
Okay, I was going to ask that if that
Yeah.
was your
So,
plan,
yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's great because when we come back to the States, we always have a house and it goes anywhere we want it to. Right.
There you go.
So yes, we went for 90 days, had a blast. Oh my God. And then the cost of living there it's mind blowing, you know, just
Gosh.
with it's half of what we were, you know, paying in
Wow.
Chicago,
Oh, well, yeah,
especially, but
Chicago. Yeah.
anywhere really. So yeah, so we did 90 days. We still have our place over there, then came back to the States, got
Okay.
in the RV and took off on, you know, we did the northern route this time around because I've
Okay.
always done the southern route. So we did Yellowstone and Glacier
Oh,
and
yes.
oh my gosh, where else? Yeah, Mount Shasta. Then we'll be heading down to Lake Tahoe, all that. So yeah, and then we'll go back probably in October, November, go for another 90 days, and
Right.
then we have our applications going in for citizenship. So,
Okay.
which is pretty cool. I mean, why not?
Well, I mean, and
Yeah.
Portugal is just a hot spot for expats. Unbelievable. And so
Yes.
many people are just moving there, you
Yep.
know.
Yeah.
So it's pretty
And
amazing.
yeah, and I actually live on Madeira, which it's an island off the
Hmm.
coast of Africa, but it's still, you know, it's part of Portugal.
Portugal. Hmm.
And it's just the most amazing place I've ever been to. And you know, that's talk about like whether RVing or being in another country, there's that
Yeah.
adjustment period where it's almost like a month of going, what? I don't know what.
Yes.
But I thought about it, it does make you more resilient. It does, like you
Oh, the
figure stuff
changes.
out.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's funny. It's like the tiniest of things. It's talk about like kind of filling up your jar of courage, you know, but the
Yeah.
tiniest of things will be like, oh my gosh, I actually went to the grocery store by myself in Portugal. Yeah, I don't know what I bought, but so it's kind of, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
true.
there were so many things I bought. I was like, if it didn't have a picture on it, I was like, I don't know what that is, but we'll try it. I'm like, why not? But it's kind of fun. And then after a while you get settled in there a little bit more, and then you feel more comfortable. And I feel like the more you do stuff like that, then the more willing you are to try other
Yeah.
things, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Well,
But
you're,
Portugal's amazing.
oh, and I followed you when you were over there.
Oh yeah.
I was loving your Instagram while you were over there. I was like, I need
So
to go.
gorgeous. I
Goodness.
know.
Yes.
And then here I am back in the States. I'm like, it's a little different.
Yeah, doesn't it make you, and obviously it makes you long to go back. I mean,
Yeah. And
yeah.
actually both, you know, it's interesting because when I was over there, I wasn't missing the States. But then once I got back to the States, if I wasn't RVing, I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much, just being honest.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the cool thing about RVing full time sounds corny, but I feel like you get more, well, you're more connected to nature because you're
Yes.
grounded literally.
Mm-hmm.
But like even right now I'm looking out and there's people like they're setting up at their RV sites and some, there are people out walking, they got their doggies, and you just feel more connected to nature. And
Yes.
that was one thing too. I hadn't realized with myself how important that is to me
Mm-hmm.
to be connected to nature.
Yes.
And, you know, I mean, for
It is
years,
same with me.
decades, I was like sitting, you know, I worked from home for a long, long time, which sounds all wonderful and glamorous, but I was, you know, I was just sitting inside a little home office for
Mhm.
you know, and I never got out enough. I never would just go, okay, I'm going to go take a walk. You know, I wasn't in nature enough. I wasn't exploring enough. And I'm realizing for me how important that is to do that, to go on little adventures, or like Julia Cameron says in her book, The Artist Way, like you take like a weekly field trip
Yes.
for,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah,
right.
I remember.
And yes, I know. And so now I take daily field trips, but that's such a good thing to do for yourself. And if you do it by yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because even if, let's say if you're living in a city or something like that, and like, okay, where am I going to go? There's not much. Even if you just go to a museum by yourself
Yeah.
and just go walk around, go have lunch, like just go on a little field trip, and then when
Yes.
you get home, like write about it. It's kind of cool, but like to me, I think of life as like a buffet, right? Like like you
Yes.
go up to the line, you sample some things, see if you like it. If you like it, great, go back for more. If you don't like it, then now you know. Like
Yep.
there's no
You don't know
harm in
unless you
just
try it.
trying.
Yeah,
Yep,
exactly. Yeah.
exactly.
No,
Yeah,
I love
life is a
that.
buffet.
I love that. Not a box of chocolates, a buffet.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ooh, chocolate.
I know, right? And
Yeah.
with you RVing, you're seeing more of the US than
Yes.
most people will see in their lifetime,
Yep.
honestly. I mean, like, how many
Yes.
national parks have you seen already?
Oh
Have you
yeah,
been?
exactly. Yeah. Oh, a ton. Actually,
Yeah.
today I'm going to Crater. I was like, oh, that's a national
Yeah,
park.
that's
Crater,
a national
yeah,
park.
Crater
Yeah.
Lake. Yeah, it's so funny that you say that because I was thinking about that too. Like if you did an RV, it would be so hard. Like
Yes.
it would take you a week just to go see Yellowstone. You got to
Yeah.
fly in, you got to get a hotel, you got to
Hmm.
and then you got to get a rental car, and there's a few grand. I'm like,
Correct.
it'd be impossible. And then to see Glacier, then to see where else did I go? Oh my God, Mount Rushmore, and all
Hmm.
the yeah. So I mean, with this, it's like you're able to kind of like sample a little bit of everything, right?
Yes. Yes.
And it's nice because I actually, okay, yeah. Tomorrow I go to Mount Shasta. After that, I have no idea. I have not made any reservations,
That's
but
okay.
it's kind
But
of
I
cool because you just look at the map and go, where should we go next?
see, I love the spontaneity, and
I
like
know.
I love that. And so, like, if that's someone's personality, then
Yeah, and you
that's
know
the
what
life.
too? Yeah, and that's actually I think it's a good thing to do. Like
Hmm.
I call myself a spontaneous planner. So I still like to in the middle.
Yeah,
I
okay,
like
okay.
to have a little bit of a plan,
I
but
like
I'm also willing to pivot if I need to pivot, you
good.
know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've been usually I only plan about 1 to 2 weeks out, and the only thing I need where I go is again I just need Wi-Fi, and then I'm good to go.
Yes.
I want to talk about that too because there's a lot of people they're like, oh, I wish I could do what you're doing, but with work, I mean, if there's one thing that came out of COVID, good thing, there's so many
It's
remote
the
jobs.
remote work. Yes.
Oh, there's a ton. I had a guy on my podcast forever ago, but he does it's called Talent Stacker with Salesforce, and you
Oh,
work
okay.
from home, and you start out making like 80 grand. I'm like, good golly. Like, so I mean, it's good. There's so many jobs out there that you can work remotely. As a matter of fact, in Portugal, they're doing, I think it's like a 1 year nomad where you can go to Portugal for a
Oh,
year. And so there's people coming from
yes.
all over working remote jobs and just
Hmm.
having the time of their life. So it's cool because if you think about it, 30 years ago, or even 20 years ago, we didn't have that luxury.
No, no. I mean, that's sort
Yeah.
of my plan, is to try to get
Yes.
a remote job so that I
Leap,
can,
leap, Cheryl,
yes,
leap.
I know. I'm getting closer to it because I'm getting more frustrated with my job right now. So it's like it's just
Yes, I'll remind me when we get done. I'll send you the episode for the talent
okay.
stacker. But yeah, you
Yeah.
start out making 80 grand, and after a year, you're making over 6 figures. And you get
It's
like if you're living in some place like Portugal or you're RVing full time, it's like
yeah.
that goes a long, long way. You don't
Yeah.
need that much.
No, no, you
Yeah.
don't. Absolutely. Yeah,
Mhm.
I am starting to feel the confinements of the
Yes.
job, right? Just
Yeah.
but for
Yeah.
now,
Your
like,
your soul
my
is like,
soul is
Cheryl, get out of the way, girl. Like,
I know,
I got
I know,
stuff
I
to
know.
do.
I know. Working on that. It's getting close. I know. I'm like, yeah,
Yes.
because I'm very impatient. So I'm
Yeah.
going back to your advice though, when you spent that year in
Yeah.
Chicago, right? Working like,
Yeah.
okay, this is for a
Yeah.
time. And
And yes, exactly. And I think you have to, like, for me, I had my end date. I was like, all right, I have my end date here. And then I did basically reverse engineer, right? Like, okay, I
Okay.
knew that October 1st, I think it was, what was it? October 1st, 2022 is what it was. No, 21. I was like, okay. And then what I did is basically reverse engineer, and
Mm-hmm.
wherever date I was at, I was like, what do I have to do to prepare myself before this
Yes.
date? And
Awesome.
I just was like,
Okay.
nose to the
I'm gonna work on
grindstone.
my
I'm
end
like,
date then.
but I was so motivated though, because it
Yeah.
was like all I could think. I mean, I had the whole thing planned out as far as what I wanted to happen by October 1st. I was like, it's going to happen. So I
Yeah.
just like, and again, you find your why,
Yep.
you'll find your way, like, and it'll just pave its way so perfectly. It's pretty
Oh,
amazing.
awesome advice.
Yeah.
Awesome advice. Well, speaking of advice for someone that would want to maybe try this RV life, what
Why
would
would
you
you do that? No, I was kidding.
what would you recommend?
uh well, I tell you what, a good thing to do is you can rent them if you
Hmm.
really just want to give it a shot. Go take a trip for a week or two. Don't expect it to be perfect.
Yes. Yes. Amen to that.
Never
Yes.
is.
Never.
Be prepared to not know what you're doing,
Exactly.
but then celebrate those tiny little
Mm-hmm.
wins, you
Mm-hmm.
know. I feel like if it's something that's always been on your mind, like it was for me, you got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had, leading up to it, I had no regrets in my life, even the craziest wild things that even the traumatic things I've been through in my life, I had no regrets. And I thought to myself, I was like, this would be my first regret if I didn't try this. And I can remember my friend telling me, even before I bought the RV, I was like, oh, it was like the largest, thing I'd ever bought by myself. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? And I remember and I remember I was like, what if I don't like it? What if I don't like living in this thing full time and traveling, not knowing where I'm going? What if I don't like that? And my friend said to me, she's like, Wendy, again, kind of going back to the pivot, right?
Yeah.
She's like, then you sell it, then you trade it, whatever.
Right.
Like, you can
Right.
always make another change.
Change.
You're not stuck with anything for life. I feel like sometimes after we leap into something that we feel like we have to stay with it because why? You don't have to.
Yeah.
Then you change again. It's
Yeah.
totally okay. Like, I'm like full of quotes today, but there's the other quote by, what will you do with your one wild and precious life? Like, this is it,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I remind myself that all the time. Like, this is
Mm-hmm.
this, we don't know, right? Like, not to sound morbid here, but it's like, we don't, like, life really is short. You don't
Mm-hmm.
know if you're going to get the rest of today, if you're going to get tomorrow. And, it's like, my ex-husband, unfortunately, passed away at the age of 26. So, I mean,
Oh.
he never even got the chance to, like, experience midlife, as the people
Yeah.
like in my
Yeah.
audience, right? He never even
Yeah.
got halfway to the halfway point.
Oh, goodness. Yes.
So life is short.
Mm-hmm.
And so if there's something that's been, your soul is telling you, I want to go do this, I want to go do
Yes.
that, I want to start my own show, start my own business, I want to move to Japan, like, do it. Like,
Yes.
it's just do it. It's not, there's no regrets. Mm-mm.
Yes. Amen. I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Do it, Cheryl.
Okay. All right. I will.
Uh,
Can you tell us what
yeah.
has been your favorite place in your travels so far? I know it's
Good
probably a hard
question.
one.
Yeah, good question. I would say, okay, as far as RVing, I'm gonna
Okay. Yeah, you'll
I'm
split it
gonna
up.
name
Go ahead.
two. I'm gonna
Yeah.
name
Okay.
two.
I'll allow it.
It
I'll
would
allow it.
be, yeah, Malibu. There's this amazing, actually, Matthew McConaughey stays there too. Maybe that's
Oh,
why I like it.
okay.
But it is like this amazing RV park that sits, like, when you wake up and you're looking out the window, like the sunrise is coming up over the ocean. And then at the end of the day, on the other side, you'll see the sunset going down to the ocean.
Oh,
It's amazing views, amazing.
awesome.
And it's
I'll
just a
look at that.
very peaceful, and there's like this neat little fish shack at the bottom of the
Yeah.
hill. So I would hike down there. I'd get my fresh fish and come back up, and I'd grill and sit out at night and watch the sunset. It's just a very serene place.
Yes.
So far on this trip, it's been Glacier up in
Okay.
Montana. Montana
Mhm.
was so gorgeous. Just
Yes.
really, I didn't think, I knew it would be pretty, but I didn't know how beautiful it would be. And the water was just like this emerald green.
Oh, wow.
Like it was incredible.
Yeah.
So, and so far Madeira,
Madeira,
Portugal
as
has
far as your
been,
international. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
why you're going back,
I
right?
know.
I
It's like,
mean,
it's so pretty. It just has everything that feeds my soul.
yes.
It has
Yeah.
everything that I like.
A lot of
Yeah.
outdoor stuff there. Hiking
Yeah.
and just being in nature, it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So many
Wow.
cool things to see in the world.
There are, and I've been asking this question a lot lately. Just, I mean,
Mm.
like you said earlier, not to be morbid, but
Yeah.
like not having regrets, taking those leaps, all that
Yep.
great advice. But as far as travel, like if
Yeah.
you were given maybe bad news that, okay, you have
Mhm.
3 months to live or whatever,
Oh, good
and
question.
you can only go one place, where would that be
Mm.
for you?
Okay, if I could only, well, what I would do, I would have all my boys come with me.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I would just go cruise through Europe
Hmm.
together, get an RV in Europe,
Okay.
and then just go travel through Europe. I would go to Germany, I would go to Ireland, France, Spain. All that would be cool.
Yeah. Okay.
That
That's
would be
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and just to
So
experience that together would be so amazing.
I just like people to think about that, because then the
Yeah.
next question is like, well, why aren't you doing it now? Right. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
why are
exactly.
we waiting till, like you said,
Yeah. Why wait?
why
Right.
wait? The whole
Mm-hmm.
leaping idea and doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and you know what too? It's like if you go back to where I was, here it was, unemployed and under a mound of debt. I was depressed. I was getting a divorce. Like my whole life had fallen apart. And then to go from there to where I'm
That
at now,
I
right? Like
know,
total
amazing.
like, but you have like if you really, really want it, you'll make it happen. So no matter where you're at in your life right now, just figure out what you got to do. Even like as corny as it is, making that list of things like, okay, all right, maybe I got to sell my house. Maybe I got to finally have that difficult conversation with someone, like in a relationship and whatever, like whatever you have to do, just keep your mind focused on what you really want. You'll
Yes.
make it happen.
Yes.
You'll make it happen.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You are just full of awesome advice. I love it.
Oh,
And
thank you. Yeah.
I mean, I'm loving this conversation. I know
Oh,
that my listeners are probably going to want to hear more from you. So
yeah.
tell them where they can find you, and they can start listening to your podcast and hear about, stuff in midlife there. Uh-oh. Did I lose you?
So the best thing I would say, just wendyvalentine.com. That's my
Okay.
website. So from there's tons of branches that go out everywhere, but social media, Wendy Valentine. The podcast is the Midlife Makeover Show. That's
Mhm.
everywhere, Apple and Google and
Yes.
Spotify and all that good stuff. You can, even if you just go to Apple or Spotify and type in the word midlife, my
Mhm.
face will pop up and I look like this.
Not
Just like
wrong.
laughing
Yeah,
hysterically.
it's
It's funny. I
beautiful.
told my photographer, I was like, don't take any pictures of me like laughing, looking like I'm about to eat a corn on the cob. And of course, that's the picture I chose for my
Yes. No, I love it.
for my cover. But
Yes.
yeah, so the Midlife Makeover Show. I've got a book coming out hopefully in the next 6 months called Women Waking Up.
Awesome.
And that is about like the 7 steps to master midlife. And then so I'd love to, and Instagram, I have a blast on
Right.
there. If you
She
just need to
does.
laugh and you just want to veg and look at stupid stuff, like Your
Follow her
girl.
on Instagram. Yes, I love your Instagram feed. I'll make
It's
sure,
fun.
yes, I will make sure I include that in the show notes for everybody
Thank
too. Yes,
you.
it
I'm
has been.
excited for you, Cheryl.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, we'll have to keep in
Yes,
touch
there's
and you'll have to hold me accountable, girl, right?
I know. My gosh. Yeah, good things up ahead for you. I
Yes.
feel it.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for being
Yeah.
here. You've been inspiring, awesome. And I
Thank
hope we
you.
can connect again, maybe to hear once you get settled in Madeira again, right? I would love to
And
maybe
you
hear.
come see me.
Absolutely. I have put that on
Yeah.
because of
I
you. I've put that
I
on my
you have
list. I was like, oh, Madeira. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe
Yes, we would
one
have
day
a
I'm aware of
blast.
it. So thank you
Yes.
for that. But good.
Thank you.
So great to have you on the show. Thank you again for your time and your awesome advice. So
All right. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, everyone.
you're welcome. Bye.